I would say, in terms of, let's say, on the non-inverted side, are there still monsters? And I would say yes. If you look at the inaugural vision of Ezekiel, what you have is actually a story that actually has in it some relatively terrifying, monstrous characters who happen to actually be the entourage or vehicle of God's arrival in that account. And when Ezekiel is first meeting God, God comes on a sea of glass, sitting on a throne, but underneath it, there's these giant characters that are covered in eyes, and they have 6 wings and 4 faces, and they're just terrifying. And so it seems to me that heaven has monsters as well, and maybe it sounds crude to call them that because we often want to call them angelic creatures. But they hold the same characteristics. They're rather terrifying. They are hybridized pieces of different things coming together into some sort of unity that almost disturbs our expectation of things in general. And so they do play that similar kind of role, but they are said to follow the Spirit's leading, which is something that sets them apart from, let's say, the monsters of darkness or of storytelling where we see the edge of the world. They're still at the edge of things, but that, let's say, they're more like the guards that sit on the wall, that's guarding what's on the inside, rather than the monsters on the outside who are seen as a threat. These are ones that are actually following the leading of the Spirit, and things like that. And so you can kind of see that even on the good side, there are monsters, right? But in terms of in terms of the second part of your question about us specifically as Christians and the let's say unintegrated part of our persons, right? Where I have in me the Spirit of God that leads me to all truth, but I also have in me the potential for great danger and for great evil. And if I don't recognize or look at that part, those parts of me that are a danger and have in themselves the potential for great evil, if I neglect to look at those things, all I'm doing is allowing them to grow in the darkness like a mold, right? They become something like, um, let's say when a dragon is first hatched in a cave somewhere, it's not nearly as much of a threat to the hero as it would be. Oops, geez. It's not as much of a threat to the hero as it would be if the hero allowed the dragon to grow full-fledged into the entire dragon that it's going to be, right? And then allow that dragon to mature into its largest state, to where it can't be faced, it can't be overcome, at least not alone, right? And you can think of this in terms of something like a neglect of our responsibility, right? Let's say you have something that you know that you could do, that you should do, that you actually would do, that's in front of you, and you leave that problem unconfronted. It'll naturally grow on its own. It really will. It'll naturally grow. Let's say you see in yourself a tendency for lust, and you leave that to go unchecked, and you don't, like Job, make a covenant with your eyes that you would not behold a maiden that is not your own. I promise you, friend, that demon will naturally grow and naturally seek to feed and placate itself on your behalf, even without you noticing. And eventually that thing will begin to grow. And so it's similar to weeds in a garden, or any other metaphor that you can use to kind of encapsulate that need for growth and for vigilance. The reason why we have to be vigilant with ourselves and take every thought captive, as Paul says, is because you have that deep potential for darkness in you. And it's one of those things where if you recognize in yourself the seeds of villainy, not only will it keep you from becoming the villain and allowing those seeds to take root, it actually allows for you a deep sense of empathy, if you can go that far as to look at a villain and feel for them and say, ah, I could have been there. That could have been me, right? And you can see the same kind of themes happening, let's say, going back to Tolkien's work with Middle Earth. You can see in Lord of the Rings, Frodo has a need to take this ring, go right into the heart of darkness, into Mount Doom. In order to destroy it, you have to take the evil right back from where it came from, right back where it was made. And Frodo doesn't in and of himself have the ability to get there. He has it in himself to actually become the kind of thing that would be consumed by the ring, right? And so oddly enough, the person that both embodies what Frodo could be and the person that guides him to where the ring can be destroyed are both the character of Gollum. Gollum is what Frodo could be. And this is exactly why Bilbo and Frodo both share this deep pity for Gollum, and why they wouldn't kill him is because they can see, they can feel, they have the empathy inside themselves from that experiential knowledge, that wisdom, to recognize that's exactly where I could be, is right there. That guy, that's me. I have the same potential to be him, and therefore I can have pity on him. I can do what I can to try to redeem his character. Obviously, Gollum doesn't end up being redeemed, and he ends up dying with the ring in a tragedy. But Gollum's story being a tragedy doesn't mean Frodo's story has to be a tragedy. So Frodo learns, let's say, almost secondhand, several lessons from following Gollum into the dark place, into this into Mordor, to go toward the mountain to destroy the ring. All of those things were necessary for both of their character arcs. It's almost like you want to root for Gollum to be redeemed, to come back. You don't want him to be consumed, but he's already been consumed, you know? And so Gollum's desire for the ring is very similar to any of our desires for something like power or greed or gluttony or lust or addiction or any number of things. We're all kind of chasing a ring. You know what I mean? In many different ways, that ring is just the symbol of that thing that you think that if you added it to yourself, you would be that much more powerful. We all have drives that are like that. And that's the reason why trinkets like rings and amulets and things like that can be the centralized piece of power in the story, about that everybody is chasing after that thing, but there's that one character who's really consumed by it, and it's his undoing. That's one of those cautionary tales that we can look at in and of ourselves and recognize, yeah, I better keep myself in check because I can see where this goes if I don't. And it makes you a lot more cautionary, but not cowardly.